This is how good I do at growing things inside. You'll see that clearly I do not do very well. This was a fig I started from a cutting, and it did okay until this fall when I brought it inside. Now I'm having a lot of trouble keeping it alive. This one is still alive. I'm not sure how. That was a tomato plant cutting. I had heard that you can extend the growing period of tomato plants if you cut them, bring them, put them in water, they start roots and you have kind of a more grown start. Of course it helps if you keep water in it. If you let it completely dry out, nothing's gonna grow right. Oh, timber. Okay, this was a ginger plant. I heard that ginger, you can put a piece of ginger in, ginger root, and it'll grow across. So I put it in this long thing. I had one at this end, one at this end. And the plants grew super tall. And then, yeah, I probably should dig it up and see if there's any ginger, the root in there. But that's what that ended up like. Yeah, I wanted rosemary to put on the quail. I guess that's one way of drying it, right? Those were little just containers, seed start containers I have left over. This is so dead from last year that I just noticed it's got something starting to come up. It's a hyacinth, I believe, from last year. So I'm going to trim that up and water it and see if that really is going to start. So why on God's green earth would I do the 5-gallon challenge indoor gardening from Heavenly Hills Homestead? I'm going to try it, and I'm going to put the bucket here, and then if something grows, I can take this top shelf out. This is just floor tiles, and here it used to be glass shelves. Now it's just floor tiles. So I can take those out, and then there's my grow bulbs. And so I have that shelf in a south-facing window. So why in the world would I try this if this is how I grow inside? Well, because I'm trying to develop my skills. So we'll see. Okay, I've put a movie on and I'm going to just hang out and listen to a movie and start my 5-gallon challenge. I am opting to go with this pot because it spreads out at the top a little more than a 5-gallon bucket. I am opting to try to grow squash. And at the end, if I'm successful, at the end you'll see why I have chosen squash. I do from my garden, from eating out of the garden, I'm not very good at making my own salads, eating salads. I don't know if I've ever tried kale other than in some maybe dips. Those kinds of things. I'm not very well rounded when it comes to farm to table, garden to table, vegetables. But I do love my tomatoes and I do love my squash. And so tomatoes I don't think I can grow in time for this challenge. I'm going to try the squash. There was another piece of it I was going to say. When I still lived in the apartment, I did grow squash on the balcony. No, I grew squash plants on the balcony in the apartment. But I only got one blossom at a time, and so it never pollinated. And I tried to pollinate it with a Q-tip and save some pollination or some, stuff on the Q-tip from one blossom to the next, but I was never successful. So I know I can grow squash plants in a container. I just don't know if I can get the fruit. So that's why I'm choosing squash. I'm choosing this container because the squash can have more room to grow up out of it because squash plants are kind of big, right? I also chose this container because when I try to grow inside, I have a really hard time knowing how much water I've put in, and clearly I never put in enough water and I let things die. These are my old tomato plants from the summer, the stems, so I'm going to clean this out. So I don't do a good job of watering plants indoors. Plus, I have the wood stove, which keeps it pretty dry in here. So I'm using this also because it has a hole in the bottom. And this is the container or the plate I usually use for outside planters to catch the water, but it's too small for this one. So I'm going to use this lid from the bucket and set the planter on that so I can try to keep track of how much water, if the water is getting all the way to the bottom, if I'm watering it well enough. So this challenge ends April 15th is when it ends. Of course, if you're picking things, you're weighing things and picking things as you go. So I picked this because it says days to harvest. Yeah, focus. 50 days to harvest. And so there were some that were a little bit longer than that. So I chose this because it seemed shorter, the shortest one I could find. I have dirt outside, I have soil, I have compost, I have all that kinds of stuff outside, but it's pretty well frozen, hard to get to. So I'm going to use a combination of what's left in here from the tomatoes. And then I bought a couple small bags yesterday of seed starting potting mix, which were the only small bags I could find. So I'm going to get this started and we'll see how it goes. The rules, I'm going to link below. There's 2 lives where Heavenly Hills Homestead is explaining the rules to the challenge. Basically, I just listened and I tried to jot it down, but be sure that you go over, if you want to join this challenge, this growing challenge, you be sure to go over and listen to his lives and make sure that I am relaying this information correctly. But the rules are use 5 gallons worth of dirt. You can use any container you want. If you were growing salad or whatever, you could use a tub that's long and not as deep, but still 5 gallons worth of dirt. Weigh and track your unwashed harvest as you go. So if you're growing potatoes or something like that, you won't, until you harvest, you won't weigh them. But if you're growing greens or you're growing squash or you're growing tomatoes, weigh that as you go and keep track of it. April 15th is the end, and so it'll be the winner will be the one that has the most weight of harvested food. Do a weekly update or photo. Weekly update video or photo or something on your community tab just to show each week what it looks like. So the first part of the challenge is to weigh and keep track of how much by weight, how much food you've grown. The second part of the challenge on April 15th will be that people in the challenge will vote for who came up with the best way to eat what they've grown, the best recipe, or, how they've eaten what they've grown. So I'm going to get started. My phone cut out a little bit ago, so I hope I got everything squeezed in that I want. The 2 links for the lives for Heavenly Hills Homestead will be in the description. Please go watch that so you understand for sure what's going on. And I hope Heavenly Hills corrects me if I've gotten the rules incorrectly. But I'm going to get the seeds in there and get started. It's already January, whatever date it is. Well, as usual, I don't know if I'm coming or going. Go on, cat. So yeah, I don't have much time. I got to get started. I put bird seed out there in a bowl, and she thinks she needs to be out there and get those birds that are out there eating that bird seed. Anyway, so I'm going to get this planted. I hope I can get them sprouted. I have seen people that do really close quarters growing, like they squish things in. They don't do the spacing, the recommended spacing. They really squish things in. So I think I'm going to try that. If I can get more than 1 plant to sprout, I think I will keep some of the extra leaves, because squash plants are big bushy plants, right? So I think I'm going to try to trim off some of the extra leaves, and if I can grow more than one plant in here, maybe I'll have more than one blossom at a time so that I can get them pollinated. That is what I'm going to attempt to do. We'll see.